Well, good evening and welcome to the Authentic Joe Show. I'm Jolena Johnson, your host, and I'm so happy to be here. If you didn't know, my first name is Joe and my middle name is Lena. Joe means love and Lena means light, and my goal is to bring you some love and light tonight and every Tuesday thereafter. I am so excited to have tonight's special guests. I have a personal connection with them. Some I go back way farther than college, but all of them and I share a special bond, which is attending the University of Missouri Columbia, though they went on to further education and I did not. That being said, have you ever met somebody who was hardworking, who was dedicated, who was committed, who just did whatever it took to succeed or make it? That's the type of women we have on today's show, and it's called WonDr Women, WON capital DR, because they have all achieved the status of doctor. Several medical doctor, we have 2 medical doctors, a dentist, and a Ph.D. And I happen to know all of them. It's such an honor. Before I bring them on, I want to read a statistic. Do you know that Black women account for less than 3% of all doctors in the US? So do you know how special and rare this is? It's truly amazing. Also, just so you know, there is a disparity between the way men are paid, white men versus African-American men. And then I'm sure that would account with Black women as well. But instead of looking at the downfalls, we want to look at the achievements. But I just want you to know how unique this is and special to me, to my heart, and hopefully to you. So without further ado, we're going to welcome 3 of our doctors now. Hi, Dr. Candy.
Hello.
Hi, Dr. Jody. Hi,
Hey.
Dr. Young Walker. So I would like to introduce you all, and I'm going to start with the person that I've known the least amount of time, but I spend the most time with. How about that? And then we'll go in opposite order. So, Dr. Jody, can you tell us a little about you?
Well, good evening and hello, Laine and Dr. Young and Dr. Wakefield. So good to see you guys. Yeah, my name is Jody Squires, and Jolena, I'm slightly offended. I didn't realize I knew you the least amount of time because it's been well over 30 years now. So that's amazing. But my name is Jody Squires, and I do have a PhD. I work for the University of Missouri as a regional director for the extension program. So if anybody's familiar with any land grant university, we have extension programs where we have faculty in the field who teach practical education. And I work in that program. I've been doing that for many, many, many years now.
And Jody, thank you for that. But one of the things I admire most about your work is that you have affected so many young people. And I know you're in a different position now than you were in the past, but can you tell us a little bit about the program that you were doing, especially affecting Black youth in the St. Louis metropolitan area? This is before you got before you became a boss. Okay, thank you.
Oh, so I worked for 20 plus years in 4-H youth development, and a lot of our young people in urban areas are not involved in 4-H. We tend to be more involved in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and Girls and Boys Clubs, things like that. But 4-H is a youth development program that I spent a lot of time with. I primarily focused on college access, getting kids to and through high school on to higher education, and then supporting them while they pursued their degrees. So the whole idea is that young people would get exactly what they needed to be successful, sustainable, contributing, positive adults in life. So I spent many years doing that. I loved it. I still love it. I still support that program. I still work with young people any chance I get. And that is probably the thing that has kept me working in this field the longest.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And in addition to that work, you and a friend have sponsored, prior to COVID, years, sponsored a back to school drive where you collected all kinds of things, the practical things. Like I learned that, you can get a kid a pack of pencils, in the beginning of the year, but they're going to lose them. And maybe by the second week, they might need some more pencils or pens. And oftentimes we take those things for granted. So not only did Jody run the program and does she run a whole bunch of other stuff and have people under her now, but one time the kid didn't have a way to go to the prom. and she dressed up in a chauffeur uniform and picked up the young man so that he could pick up his date so they could go to prom. And then she had, I don't know if this was the same prom when one of the girls had some acne on her face and you put some toothpaste on there and got her together. So she
Who
be
knows?
upset.
I think that was a different prom, but yeah, don't forget, I had my father's Lincoln Continental, his white Lincoln Continental. That was very important in my role as a limousine driver.
I love it. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Jody.
Yeah, no
Okay, so next we have Dr. Laine Young Walker, and I have known Laine. We actually have something in common. We actually joined our sorority at the very same time. She's my line sister. And although Jody is part of that organization as well, Laine and I did it together. Dr. Laine Walker, welcome. How are you tonight?
Well, welcome and thank you for having me, Jolena. And Candace and Jody, it's really good to see you. I kind of stalk you on Facebook, so I see your son growing up, Candace, and I see you sometimes, Jody, but it's good to see you in person. I am a child and adolescent psychiatrist, which means that I went through medical school and then had additional training in psychiatry and child psychiatry. And I work for the University of Missouri, Columbia, as the first Black female chair of a department ever at the university.
That is fantastic. I mean, oh my gosh. Thank you, Laine. And can you tell us why did you go? Oh. We have sound effects. That's awesome. Thank you. Laine, can you tell us? Okay, producer. Okay, Laine, can you tell us why did you choose child psychology of all things?
Okay, so it's psychiatry, and the difference between psychiatry and psychology is psychiatry is a medical doctor, and psychology is a Ph.D. degree. But I always knew I wanted to be a doctor when I was young. Why, I don't know. No one in my family had even gone to college, but I really wanted to do OBGYN. In your medical school education in your third year, you rotate through various departments, various areas. And so when I rotated through psychiatry, I really fell in love with it. And I think the reason it wasn't on my mind to begin with is most people in Black communities don't talk about mental health, don't talk about psychiatry. I didn't even know it was really a profession until I entered into medical school and was placed in a psychiatry rotation. So once I did psychiatry and loved it a lot, the immediate go-to for me was child psychiatry. And people ask me why. I mean, I don't know why. I liked working with adults, but I really liked working with children and adolescents and families. And so when you do child psychiatry, it's not just the patient, but it's the patient's world. It's the school, it's counselors, it's children's division, it's the parents. And I like that team approach to working with everybody to help a child.
Oh, that warms my heart. Oh my goodness. When I think about when I was in elementary school, and I'm coming to my elementary school friend in a minute. When I think about when I was in elementary school, Laine, I had, I always finished before everybody in class. And then what would I do? Sit and talk to people in class. Okay. And I was a distraction. So they sent me to Dr. Skidis. Okay. And so Dr. Skidis, she would let me do little projects with her. I don't know. I would, staple things, grade papers, do all this type of stuff. And I loved it because I was like, I'm in the mix. I'm doing things, but I didn't realize that she was probably a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And she was helping me with how I processed things, how I behaved, and it really helped. And so I didn't take it as negative. And I love that I didn't take it as negative. It was always a positive experience for me. And I think she influenced my life to make me feel like I wanted to make a difference for young people as well. And even this work that I'm doing today. So I want to thank you for that. There is so much of a stigma around mental health, and especially in the African-American community. So I love what you said when you said we affect the patient's world. That is so beautiful, because how many children's lives could be different if their world was affected when they were young and a team approach was taken so that the quality of their lives, the success of their lives, and the results of their lives could be so much different. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
And you lived in Columbia now for so many years. I mean, you went to school and you never left.
So I came to Columbia as an undergrad, and I thought this was a hick town. I would be leaving right away. I was never going to have my kids be a como. You know, we used to call them comos, right?
Yes.
And I never left. I did all of my training here. I've raised 2 daughters. One's 21, one's 17. They're comos. But it's been a good opportunity for me, actually, career-wise, and really for the family, a safe environment. It's really been a good place to be.
Wow. 21 years old. I had to brace myself. I mean, I've known you 31 years, and so for you to have a 21-year-old, that is amazing. Laine, thank you so much for your dedication and for your choices and your sacrifice. The Como reference, back when we were in school, there was a movie called School Days, for some of you who may know, and so they had a little interaction from the camp with the campus and the people who lived in the community. So that's kind of where that reference came from. And it was certainly a negative connotation, but campus life was certainly different than small town life. I mean, we're talking about the middle of Missouri. So I love it that you decided to be a Como and your kids were too. So thank you so much for that. And last but not least, we have Dr. Candace Wakefield. I have known Candace since she was about this tall in elementary school. Now she's tall. And I have seen her grow up as a little girl, almost about the age of me in this little picture over here. And now she is a mom, a wife, and a flourishing dentist. But I cannot do you justice because you have a couple of degrees in dentistry. So Dr. Candy, can you tell us about yourself and your practice?
Well, first of all, thank you and hello to everyone. Jody and Laine, Jolena, thanks for this opportunity. You guys are just bringing back so many memories right now, thinking about the good old days at Mizzou and even back at in elementary school with Jolena. I'm a pediatric dentist. This is my profession, about 23 years into it right about now. And I chose pediatric dentistry just because that was well, let me go back. I chose dentistry because I like working with my hands. I like doing things under a microscope, so to speak, and just being creative, essentially. But pediatric dentistry in particular was one of the specialties that I chose just because working with children, I'm a child at heart always. And having fun is number one on my list. And that's all the child wants to do. They want to come in, they want to have fun, they want to eat lunch and leave. And that's about what I like to do as well. But long story short, pediatric dentistry gives me the opportunity to connect with people all day long. I connect with the children, I connect with their siblings, I connect with their parents. And it gives me an opportunity to do what I love most in life other than dentistry, which is talking. So it's a great area for me to kind of use other skills to connect with people. In pediatric dentistry, we are all about psychology as well. And being able to connect with a child who is afraid and bringing them out of their shell, so to speak, is a bit of a talent. And I like and feel very rewarded being able to work with a population of patients that may or may not have access to care because of a special need, or maybe not even, believe in going to the dentist because their parents were afraid, and just bringing them to that awareness that I'm here to help and I want them to have a good time while they're there. But most importantly, I want them to be healthy.
I love it. And you couldn't have had a better name. I mean, your name is Candace, but to be Dr. Candy, the dentist, I mean, it was like it was meant to be. Yeah. It's so beautiful. And Candace, back, what was that, over 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I helped you work on your first book. I know you're going to do another one eventually, but it was called My Dentist Appointment. And Candace, not only was she, Dr. Candy, not only was she serving her patients, but she also created a nice little book to show them not to be afraid of going to the dentist. And the whole premise was the tooth was hurting. The brother was making fun of her. The parents were on the phone. Oh my gosh, we got to take her to the doctor. We got to take her to the dentist. We got to take her. And there's Dr. Candy. And so this was in the image of her niece. And it was so amazing. It was based on her office at the time. And it was an adventure. And it was like the kid wasn't afraid at first. It was the adults that made the child afraid. Can anybody relate to what I'm saying? How many times do we put our stuff on kids and then all of a sudden they pick up our baggage? And so that's why I love it being with these ladies now. So Dr. Candy, I just love it. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of everyone. And being a few years older than you, just to have seen you as a young person in elementary school and to see you as this doctor with how many patients do you have?
I'm not sure, but it's quite a few over the last 23 years. I probably would say. I would say that I saw a patient the other day who already has a child that's, in junior high. So that did not make me feel good, but it was impactful. I mean, I almost shed a tear.
Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of young people are healthier because you touched them in St. Louis, and I want to thank you for that. Okay, so I'm sorry. I just feel so happy. Okay, so we know I'm going to start some questions now. Often kids want to be what they see. Laine already said she didn't have any doctors, but she just knew inherently that she wanted to be a doctor. How did you all decide? I mean, what did you see? What did you know? What inspired you to go through all of this education, the investment of time, energy, and money to be here? So what did you see that made you decide to do this? You can go. How about you, Dr. Jody?
Oh boy. So in full disclosure, both of my parents were educators. And I could probably end my answer right there. So what I wanted to do growing up, it varied depending on the day and what I saw, what I was interested in. But what was clear to me growing up is that you were going to finish high school, you were going to go to college. You would get a degree, you get it in whatever you want, but get a degree. Mm-hmm. So I did that, right? I promised my dad, oh yeah, sure. And then when I got to school and I met these wonderful people, all of you all on the screen, my heart is just happy to see everybody. And Candace and I, we go way back, and just, it's amazing. School was a great experience for me, probably more socially than academically. Not that I did terrible, but I mean, socially, it was just a great time. And I think everybody would agree, we went to class because we had to go to class, and that's why we were there. So I finished undergrad and I went to grad school. I started working. I worked for the university, and I'm also a person who's, I try to use my money wisely. And a benefit of working for the university was continuing education at a reduced price. And so I just took full advantage of it through a terminal degree. And so being very honest with you, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always trying to figure things out. And so to pursue another degree, master's degree, Ph.D., it wasn't a big deal. I was working in a field that I really enjoyed, and I was able to take classes that applied to what I was doing in the real world. And I just feel like with education, that is the one thing in this world nobody can take from you, no matter what. They can never come in and say, you don't know how to be a dentist anymore. You are no longer able to help young people. Nobody can take this. They can take your house, your car, they can take everything else. But once you have acquired some information, knowledge, and know how to apply it, it's yours. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So I'm going to repeat the question, and then Dr. Candy, I'd like to hear your answer, and then we're going to welcome our next doctor in. So oftentimes kids want to be what they see. What happened with you?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would probably say, as Jody stated, my mom was also in education. She was a teacher in primary school as well as in high school. My dad, he was a blue collar worker at Ford Motor Company, who was also a frugal guy, saving money. Like every other child in St. Louis, we went to the pediatrician, and Dr. Nash was my pediatrician. I had no idea that I wanted to be a dentist, but I did see her, quite honestly, a lot of times because I was a sick child. I mean, I had lots of issues growing up when I was younger, but it never really stuck with me that dentistry was going to be it. As Dr. Walker stated, I knew that I wanted to be a doctor from the time that I was maybe 7 years old. I just didn't really figure out what type that was going to be. And so when I was at Mizzou making lots of mistakes alongside Jody, I made a choice that I needed to take a path and a hard look at what I was going to do for my future. And I decided after giving up on medicine as Laine went forward, that I didn't want that level of responsibility. I did kind of want to still be a creative and do things kind of the way I wanted to do them. And I worked in research labs and working out on microscopes and Petri dishes. And it just seemed as though that was meant for me to do. And it really was like an epiphany that I had. And things just kind of fell into place. So it just so happens that where my office is today is also where I was a patient from the time I was 6 years old. So it was almost like a full circle moment. And I would agree that, my career path was definitely ordained and meant to be. So that's how I landed here.
That is beautiful. I think our other doctor is getting her camera together, so I'm gonna give her one more second to get it together. Laine, did you want to share your background a little bit with this question, please?
Right. As far as so background personal, I liked when you said your dad worked at Ford. My dad retired from Ford Motor Company in Missouri as well. So my blue collar family. My mother was a supervisor in the Marine Corps. They neither one. My dad had not even finished school. He had to drop out of school to take care of his family. And so I came from a place, they weren't educators, but they were serious about education. My older brothers had gone to public school in Kansas City that wasn't so great. And the brother right above me wasn't reading in third grade. So my mother, when she figured that out, she pulled them out of public school, put them in a Catholic private school. No, we're not Catholic, but she felt like they would get a better education. And so he was third grade. My other brother was fifth grade. And so when I started kindergarten, that's immediately what I did. And so I really think that in some ways, I didn't see doctor in my household, but in school, success and succeeding and doing the best you can do was something that they talked about. And so that could have been part of it. I'll say jokingly, my brother was a teenager. He said he was going to be a doctor. So there's a piece of me that says, maybe I just was trying to be like my big brother, but maybe I made it and he didn't. I don't know. So I just think there were a lot of things that were put in place for me to have academics be very, very important and help me to succeed now without a bump in the road. I'm not saying I was the smartest one or had the best grades. I mean, there were a lot of things that I did in addition to school, and the sorority was one of them. But anyway, a lot of things that I did in addition to school that really, I think, shaped me. And if I had not been active in a research lab, if I had not met people like Dr. Ingram, who was an excellent advisor, pathologist, if I had not made connections with people, I don't know that they would have accepted me in med school. So I think along the way, there were just various things that were lined up to help me get there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to bring on another University of Missouri grad. That is what we all have in common. Dr. Kim Johnson-Hatchett. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Great. We're so happy to have you. And so could you just tell us your background, how you became a doctor?
Oh, wow.
Okay. Not the whole story, but you missed. So let me just frame it since you didn't hear everyone else. One of the question was, oftentimes kids want to be what they see. And so I'd like, hold on, we got somebody. Okay, sorry about that. We have moderators and producers. Hi, Kim. She's a nurse, a former engineer and nurse. She probably needs to be on here. Anyway, Dr. Kim, oftentimes children want to be what they see. And I have the privilege of knowing quite a bit about your story because like Dr. Candy, I helped you work on your book. Let's go ahead and put it up real quick, producer. And Kim has a very interesting path because I think you were in engineering as well. And then you somehow became a neurologist.
Yes. So very briefly.
I'm sorry, Kim, you have some static. I don't know. Maybe if you try turning down your volume just a little bit, let's see if it's still happening.
Okay. Is that better?
No.
Do you want me to take my earbuds out?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And also, as we're waiting, I would encourage you to join the chat, hit the like button, comment. If you want to come on and talk to the ladies, you can do so. And we're getting it together. I'm just so excited that we were able to get all 5 people together at one time. So Kim's book is called Retrospective. Oh, it's messing up now. Okay, can you all hear me okay? Okay. Kim's book is called Retrospective Calling, and it's looking back to create your path forward. She just wrote this book, and we finished it during COVID. And so she talks about really her journey to and through becoming a neurologist. So we can take that off, and let's go on until Kim gets back. She's having technical difficulties. Okay? All right. Thank you so much. I'm getting a note. Yeah, I did. Okay. So anyway, we're going to go on, and then we'll come back. So If you were talking to a young person today, women, times are different than when we were in college. You know, when we were at the University of Missouri, I mean, we would walk home in groups, but I wasn't worried about getting attacked really, or shot, or all this violence and things like that. And, you know, yes, my grades went down when I was trying to join the sorority. Kim is going to come back. She's in another sorority that's pink and green. I'll just say that so we don't discriminate. Even though she's not hearing me talk about her, we're mentioning that. But life is different now, and things are different in terms of relationships. Like, we all knew each other, and we have relationships, and we still have a certain type of relationship now. But life is different now than it was when we were growing up. If you were talking to a young person today, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them about tenacity and further education?
Well, it's funny because I talk to students that come into as patients that come into the office daily. I even have a teenage practice that I call Trilogy that's dedicated to teenagers, such that I can relate to them on a different level than I would a 3-year-old child, and get a little deeper with them so that they can let loose a bit, and we can get a little personal. And I ask them questions about school. I ask them questions about dating, or the sports that they might play, getting into Ubers and things of that nature. Things that they don't maybe won't share with their parent. They've been seeing me since they were 3, and they do share that. But one thing that I've always told them, and I also mentor students that are in dental school and even as residents, and I let them know, as Jody stated, you never let someone tell you what you can't do. The sky's the limit. And if it's something that you want to do, the number one thing that is always okay to invest in is yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's just the bottom line. So as I tell my story, I always tell people there's no plan B for me. I had the plan. I did the plan. We put it into action, and you can't let anybody get in your way, because people will. Things come up. There are, as I call them, NLEs, negative life events, that happen to us all, that throw us off our path from time to time. But it's something that you will get past. It's something that you will move on from. And you just have to really stay the course, because as the quotes also say, if you look back to when you would have started, you wish you would have started today. You know, those types of quotes happen to people all the time. They lose time. So to keep pressing forward, never give up on yourself, always believe in yourself, that anything is possible, and talk to somebody if you need help along the way. You can't do it all by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. And I'm going to let Laine answer next. I just want to say, if you all notice, there's been a common theme that you also had 2-parent households. Well, I'm not sure, Laine. I don't know. You didn't actually say that. You said yes. Okay. Yeah. You also had 2-parent households. You had hard workers. I think that's a difference too. When we were, yes, look at that, Wonder Women. When we were growing up, you know, even if somebody wasn't in a 2-parent household, there was somebody down the street who was fixing bikes, and somebody down the street who was fixing cars, and there was a neighborhood, and we had camaraderie, and we knew each other. Today is so much different. Laine, please go ahead.
Can you repeat the question just so I make sure I'm answering right?
Okay. So what advice would you give to young people today, because times are different, if they are interested in pursuing a higher education, or just being safe or being successful in whatever manner? What advice would you give, especially as a child psychiatrist? I know this is not medical advice, but it's just advice from Dr. Young Walker.
So I would echo what Dr. Candy said for sure about have a vision, a goal, and move forward, and don't let anything stop you, because lots of things will try to stop you. But I think the other thing that's good for this generation is to think about relationships. Mm-hmm. We've gotten so much into the phone and social media and all of that, that having a conversation with someone where you're not at the same time looking at your phone, paying attention to other things, doesn't always happen. And the relationships that you form with people need to be genuine, and they will support you and be there for you. They need to know that you're invested in that relationship and not in what's on your phone, not in, you know, the TikTok you want to look at, those other things. And so I don't think that often and I'm guilty sometimes too, and I'm not young, of not being in the moment with the people that I'm with, and having my mind distracted with other things. So I think that's really important.
Very good. Thank you so much. Dr. Kim Johnson-Hatchett, I'm gonna change my question for you.
Okay.
And could you tell us about your work? If you want to tell us where you work, you can, but can you tell us about your group? I don't know. Oh, your Alexa is answering me?
Yes. That is hilarious. So I'm sorry, what was the question?
Tell us about your job.
Okay. So I'm a neurologist, and I take care of veterans. I'm actually a VA physician. I take care of veterans who have head injuries, who have neurological conditions like Parkinson's disease, ALS, seizures, migraines. Anything that has to do with the brain or the nerves that come out of the brain, and any sickness that can be related to that. So that's what I do.
Awesome. And your position at your hospital, because they've already shared, so don't be too humble. Tell us what you do.
So I'm the chief of medicine at my hospital. So it's an administrative job. So all of the subspecialists like the cardiologist or the lung doctors or the critical care doctors, all of those doctors are under my supervision.
Thank you. I need an applause. Thank you. I am almost tearful right now because I see Wonder Women and I see you all. And I feel blessed to know each and every one of you that I could make a call and you all would take your Tuesday night away from your families and your schedules and driving back from Columbia in the rain to be on this call tonight. Each of you have impacted my life in watching you grow up, in being your friend, in spending special time bonding, in helping you with your dreams. It has been an honor and a privilege and a pleasure. And one of the reasons I created the Authentic Joe Show is because I know a lot of people, and I feel like I'm a connector. I feel like I was born to help people to get information that they would not otherwise have. And I don't have advanced degrees. I'll never have an advanced degree, and I'm fine with it, but I know you all. So then you all can be here and you can share this information with people. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I think it's so interesting, as I mentioned, my first statistic, that Black women account for less than 3% of US doctors in the whole United States. And so if we think about your specialties and the fact that Laine, you're running a department, and Kim, you're running a department, and Jody, you're running a department, and Dr. Candy, you have your practice. I mean, if we looked at whatever statistics those could be, I mean, you all are, the tops. And so I want to take my hats off to you because several of you are mothers, and we see your picture in the background when the kids were little, and your husband, Kim, and her husband is also a University of Missouri graduate, although they didn't meet at Mizzou. And so it's just amazing. So I just want to thank you for that. I have another question. Do any of you have a story when someone was surprised you were the person in charge?
Can I tell my story?
Sure.
I was in the doctor's lounge, and it's a place where we have, breakfast, lunch, snacks, whatever. And someone had spilled a cup of sodas or something. I don't know. And so I got some papers, and I, bent down, started cleaning it up. And another doctor, not the one who spilled it, walked by and said, "Thank you so much for all you do to help us. We really appreciate you taking care of us." And I just said, whatever. I guess I'm the help now.
Did you ever see that person again?
I'm sure I have, but I just I blew it off. I ignored it. My husband would say, I don't evoke my title and name enough. I was like, she's ignorant. Just because I'm Black and I'm cleaning up something don't mean I'm the housekeeping.
That's right. They say you should leave a place better than when you found it. And a lot of people don't ascribe to that. So the fact that you took your time and you didn't have to clean it up was beautiful. So thank you for that. I love that story. Okay, who else? A time that they were surprised you were in charge.
I have a story.
Okay.
I had a nutritionist that was starting with the diabetes and endocrine department. And the nutrition department's a different department, different division. And they were saying that they needed a desk for this person. So my business manager was talking to them, and the woman was upset. She said, I don't even understand why you all, had an attitude. So I walked up and I said, well, what's going on? Well, she's starting today and no one has a seat for her. I said, oh, I didn't realize she was starting today. And she looked at me and said, I don't know why you wouldn't know. And I looked at her and I said, who are you? And she told me who she was. I said, well, I'm Dr. Johnson. I'm the chief of medicine. I said, and I did not know she was going to be here. And she said, I'm sorry. I thought you were one of the nurses. I said, that makes what you said even worse. That you think that you can talk to a nurse that way makes me think that you have a pretty low opinion of nurses. I said, so I'm going to pretend that you didn't say that. I said, and young lady, we'll find you a seat. So thank you so much. You can go. And I dismissed her. So.
You all have so much more tact than I do. It's called Authentic Joe for a reason. Okay. My producer is telling me if you would like to support the Authentic Joe show, you can certainly take a picture of the Cash App and send a little something to the show. So I'm supposed to tell you that. Okay, Dr. Candy, Dr. Jody, what's your story?
Well, I've had the same stories, basically. At one point in time, I looked rather young, maybe younger than I do now. And so walking into the hospital to do a surgery, as Laine said, they're looking at you like you are someone that's there to clean up. Because some people are there. Most of us, a lot of us are there in those positions. So to see me being in a role, walking up to a nurse's stand, asserting myself in such a way, looking for a patient, throws them off to this day, even at my age. So, and I have to let them know who I am. And then it's a lot of looks and, oh, wait a minute, she's the doctor, that kind of a thing. So it happens a lot. You hate to get used to it, but it does, just because they don't always see people in these roles, particularly owning your own building, your own practice. I have clothing with my practice name on it, and I can go to the checkout line at the grocery store and it'll say my name, and they'll ask me, who do I work for? I'm like, my name is right there, but it doesn't matter. So it happens all the time, unfortunately. But more than likely, I will say this, I get a lot of people that are surprised that are, African Americans that want to believe that we're not doctors too. It's not just, say, for example, someone that's Caucasian who can't get over the fact that we've excelled. And sometimes it's our own community that haven't strived or thought about higher goals, or maybe they don't see the examples in their families to believe that, hey, why did you choose to be a doctor? Why not just be this, or that? And then when you let them know, no, keep going. You can do this too. Why are you only stopping at nurse? Nothing's wrong with nurse, but what's your reason behind it? So you have to also kind of push people in your community to kind of think outside that box too, so they don't feel as though it's surprising. It should be something that we just do also.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Jody, before I get to you with your story, I'm going to switch lanes just for a second. Dr. Candy, you did not tell us you did go to the University of Missouri, but unlike Dr. Squires and Dr. Young Walker, you also went to another school, and that is very significant. So can you tell us about your education and those degrees? Thank you.
Yes, so I went to two other schools. One of them was Southern Illinois University School of Dental Medicine, which is in Alton, Illinois. And that was a 4-year program to be a dentist. And then I decided to specialize, which meant that I spent 2 additional years studying at Howard University in Washington, D.C. And that was an unmatched experience like no other. And it pales in comparison to any other university that I went to. It was amazing. But I'll tell you my experience there, walking through those hallways, seeing all of the historic pictures of the greats before you, walking into that medical lounge cafeteria and being in the presence of 200-300 doctors, all black in white coats. It was an experience that I had never had before. I mean, I was tearful and I had one of the coats on. So it was like, wow, you don't get that any place else. And they have their problems like any other institution. But that to know that you were in a place that not only had 300 or 400 medical doctors there, 300 or 400 dentists that were there, but a whole university from that spans every degree possible, all there. Was an amazing experience that I don't take for granted, and I really appreciate having that in my life to hold on to.
Outstanding. And so you are a dentist and it's two different. What was your last degree?
No, so I'm a board certified pediatric dentist and a fellow in pediatric dentistry.
Okay, very good. And you did that extra. You didn't have to do that. You chose to do that.
It was extra.
That's what Dr. Kim Johnson-Hatchett did too. But anyway, let's go on back to Jody, and then we'll come back because I have more questions. Okay, Jody, what was your experience? I mean, Dr. Jody, excuse me.
Okay, I am going to answer 2 questions, 1 answer.
Okay.
So you asked the question about telling what would you tell younger people, and then experiences where people didn't know who you were and all that. So my answer to that is it's probably happened more times than I can count. If someone caught me, like you say, Laine, cleaning something up or putting chairs up, or they don't know who you are, but whatever. Because I think my advice to younger people would be to practice and perfect the relationship you have with yourself, first and foremost, right? So make sure that whatever you're going to make friends, you're going to have parents, family members, but the most important relationship you're ever going to have in life is the one you have with yourself. How you talk to yourself, how you're able to encourage yourself, motivate yourself, push yourself, because you're not always going to have other people to get you where you need to be. And sometimes it's just a mind game, and it's just you and the self-talk, right? To get you where you need to be.
Yes.
So in those times when people don't know who I am, I don't care, because I know who I am. And eventually at some point, when you see me walk to the front of the room and lead the meeting, or when you go Google or, look up, a lot of times the way I work now, a lot of times people look me up because something's happening. They want to complain. They want to know who to complain to. They'll find out. And I'm okay with that, right? I have no desire. I get no kick out of proving to somebody who I am, because I know who I am and I just do my job, and that's it. So that would be my advice. And then my experience, I don't worry about people who kind of put me in a certain category initially. And honestly, I kind of get a kick out of it. I'm not going to lie. It's like, and it does something too. It keeps you humble too, because at no point in time, are we guaranteed to live these lives that we live. So don't worry about this. It's all fleeting. The same person who claps for you can boo you. So you got to be immune to that. You have to be focused. So that's my answer on that.
That is excellent. And your younger brother, yes, you do need to go back to school. Be more like your big sister. All these degrees on here, I feel like I need to go back to school. That's a younger brother for you.
Look, he's doing better than everybody. He's good.
And so thankful I spent 5 years in one hot summer at Mizzou and got to know these amazing Black women. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. So Dr. Kim Johnson-Hatchett, Jody spoke a little bit about this, knowing yourself. So your book is called Retrospective Calling. And because we came on a little late, I kind of want to speed it up and just get to the point where you were working. Was it Ford Motor Company?
General Motors.
General Motors. Okay, because we had Ford already on here. Their dads were working at Ford. You were working at GM. I think you were a project manager. You were in charge of some things. And then one day you decided you wanted to go to medical school. I mean, how does that happen?
So I think, before I even started General Motors was a stepping stone for me to go to medical school, because I needed to pay off some bills. I needed a way to make money and still take prerequisite classes during the day. And so I had decided to go back to medical school when I was a drug rep for Merck. And I realized.
Uh-oh. Okay, hold on. Kim, you flashed. We can't hear you. Say something again. Uh-oh. No, we can't hear you. I don't know what happened. Can everyone else hear? Can you all hear me okay? You can hear me though, right? Okay. Okay, Kim. Nope. I'm going to have to bring you back another night so we can hear more about your juicy story. I can tell all your business, but I don't want to. Is it possible for you to get on your laptop to finish the interview? Say something, Kim. No, we can't hear you. Maybe you can try going out and coming back in, okay? Okay, so here's what I want to know. My next question is, do you all still love what you do? Because everybody's been in this over 20 years now. Some of us getting close to 30. Do you still love what you do? And what's the answer and why?
Well, I definitely love what I do. There's nothing else that I would rather do at all, So being able to laugh all day long and be like a child and play my music, dancing, retire and do what exactly? That is not on my list at all. I love it every single day. I love it more so than, coming back home even. I mean, that's where all the fun is. That's where all the people are. So I'm a very social person. And so being at work, interacting with people, it really is something that I love to do. Dentistry is just the other half. But for me, it's really about making those connections with people. And I think that's what I enjoy best.
Very good. Our friend Anise says, come on, beautiful queen. So honored to know you all. We're honored to know you too. When we do something about artists, talking about being in New York and Los Angeles and finding their way and having a vision, Anise is another one of those people. She chose a different path, but she is equally successful. Dr. Candace, you're talking about dancing and having fun in the dentist's office. What you mean you have fun in the dentist's office? Nobody has fun in the dentist's office. Just you, dentist.
The party don't start till I walk in.
I love it. And how do you juggle being the mom of a very young son with being Dr. Candy?
Okay, so I didn't go to school for that. So I can't say that I perfected that at all. I tell people all the time, I'm better at my job than I am in this environment when I come back home, because this is still new. He's only 7 years old. This is all new to me still. So every day is a challenge, and I try my best. That's what my answer would be. But it's difficult sometimes, just coming home, and as others would know, after a long, hard day, dealing with all the problems of not only working, but being in management, being a boss. And then you come back home and you're making dinner and doing these other types of things, but you still have that in the back of your head that you still have to do. So the balance comes in when it can, but everything's a priority. You got to figure out how to manage your time and realize that you're not perfect. Take off the cape. And if you don't fold up the clothes, okay. Who cares?
I think that's good advice to any parent, because there was no handbook. And sometimes some of us can be upset about what happened or what didn't happen in our childhood, but they didn't know. And so we just got to do our best every day. Dr. Hatchett, can you unmute and see if you're okay? Let's see if we can get you this time. Okay, it doesn't seem okay. No, we cannot hear you. I don't know what's happening. No, we can't hear you. Okay, so let me move on to Dr. Young Walker. Do you still love what you do?
There are days that I am frustrated because as a chair, you have a department of faculty and everybody's got their own opinions, and you can't always please people. So there are days of frustration, moments of frustration, but overall, I love what I do. And I like the variety. So as a chair of a department, you oversee the different operations in the department, the clinical operation, the research operation, the education teaching operation, and try to make sure that your department is meeting the mission of the school, but also the best department that it could be. And so I really like the variety. I really like, I began and created some programs before I was chair for early childhood mental health, and also for trauma and access to child psychiatry. So to see those programs grow, where now we have about 21 different people that run 6 different programs that not only touch Boone County, but the state of Missouri. Those are things that continue to encourage me to keep going forward.
Yes, that's wonderful. And can I ask, because as we're wrapping up, I think people are kind of afraid to address mental health issues. I think it's a cultural thing, especially in the Black community. So as a wife, as a mother, as a daughter, as a sibling, and as Dr. Young Walker, what would you say to people about this? Because especially after COVID, there is so much pent up hostility and frustration. And we know those rates are going up when people are taking, unliving themselves. I think that's what I have to say. What would you say? What are some words of encouragement and maybe some instructions that people should do, like book an appointment?
Well, I would say mental health concerns touch probably 100% of everybody's lives in some way, either through you, through someone you know, through someone you work with. Somebody that you engage with has struggled with depression or anxiety to the point where they needed help. And, it's not always obvious to us when you need help. And asking for help is not a sign of weakness, because mental health issues, depression, it's biological. It's not something that you just make up and decide you're going to be depressed. You have little chemicals in your brain, and medication and therapies can help that. So I think just getting outside of this is a weakness and I should be strong enough to handle this, and really understanding that this is an illness, just like high blood pressure, just like diabetes. It's an illness and you can't fix those things on your own. So why would you think you can fix this on your own?
Very good. Thank you. Dr. Hatchett, can we hear you?
I don't know.
Yes. Can we get a hand clap for that one?
Lord, who knows? I don't know what's happening.
This is an example of tenacity and resilience. Okay. So you were saying that your job at GM was a stepping stone and it was practical. It helped you to be able to afford to go to school. And then I'm going to speed it up and say that you got your acceptance letter and you were walking on campus, but you kept your acceptance letter in your backpack.
Yes,
Why?
I did. I think it might have, looking back on it, was imposter syndrome, because I thought, okay, they have made a mistake by letting me up in here. But if they do come and say, why are you here? I can pull out my acceptance letter and my little check that said, I've got this little, here's my deposit. I'm supposed to be here. So I think after I passed anatomy, I knew I was supposed to be there. It was like once I knew anatomy and I knew I had some nightmares about the foramen spinosum and the middle artery, these different arteries that run through the brain. Once I started having nightmares about that, I knew I was supposed to be there. I knew they had changed me into like a medical student, that I was going to be a doctor. So I think that's the reason why.
Okay, very good. I can't even pronounce those things, but you had nightmares and that said stay. Okay. Okay. Kim, you said a lot of formal things, Dr. Hatchett, you said a lot of things about what you do. One of the big challenges right now is dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yes. And
as our society continues to age, more and more of us will be affected, like I am personally with my parents. What would you tell people if they notice that someone is having memory issues? What would you say? I think it's going to be very similar to what Dr. Young Walker said. If you notice that a person or yourself is having a memory issue, what should you do?
You need to see a doctor. You need to see someone for it, and know that it's not just normal aging, because normal aging should not look like leaving your keys in the refrigerator or getting lost on a familiar path home. That's not normal aging. So don't chalk it up to that. You need to make sure that, because there's chemical imbalances that can make you seem like you're demented. It's called pseudo dementia. So you want to make sure that we're looking for those things. And if it is dementia, putting together a treatment plan and talking to the family about what they can expect in the future.
Very good. Thank you so much. And the other question is, do you still love what you do?
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. Medicine, it's been very stressful these past few years, extremely stressful. But I will say that this path that I've been blessed to be on is something that I couldn't even dream of. Like even when I was at Mizzou, I didn't think about being a doctor. And the fact that I'm actually doing this is amazing. And the fact that I get to lead other doctors is even more amazing. So I love it. Even with the administrative craziness of working for the actual president, it can be crazy, but I do love it.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. And I want to thank you. I know that you juggle your Peloton and your daughters and your husband and all these things. And even tonight you had I think an event for one of your daughters. So that's why you had to come on late. I love it that you still chose to come, even though you had to juggle that. And I think it's really remarkable that you're able to do it and you're so enthusiastic and you keep your courage together and you're helping people with their dreams. So I think that's so important. So thank you. I don't know what that sound is. I don't think it was you this time.
No,
I don't know what it
wasn't her. It was me. I'm sorry.
Okay, Dr. Young Walker, thank you. Okay, Dr. Squires, do you still love what you do?
It's good to be here. Yes, yes, I do. I like. I think it's very important that people have opportunities and that people have access, quality access to education. And that is not always through a 4-year degree, right? We're on this screen because we met each other at a 4-year university. But the fact that we got the opportunity to go to college is a big deal. Everybody doesn't get that. And so working with the extension program, I have an opportunity to provide practical educational opportunities, life-changing kinds of encounters with the university for folks who are not enrolled necessarily as students. And I think that's really important because, we're living in a time now, the degrees that we all got, now we got them in different years. If we all went back to get them now, they would cost us 4, 5, 6 times what we paid for our degrees. And that's just our bachelor's degrees. I'm not talking about the advanced degrees, master's, PhDs, M.D. So I like what I do because I have an opportunity to provide quality information, educational services to people without them having to be students at the university. And I think that's important. People need to be able to improve and advance without $100,000 worth of student loan. Of course, I'm still an advocate. I think everybody should go to school. If you can, go away to school because there's something social that happens to you when you're away. But yeah, I enjoy that. And of course, there's administrative stuff that's extremely frustrating. But that's typically when people aren't being nice. I'll just say it that way. And that does bother me. But in general, yeah, I've been working with the university it'll be 28 years next month. And so that's a blessing, and I don't take it for granted. So
that is so amazing. Oh my gosh, that is truly amazing. Thank you. Yes. When I think about all the stability you've had over these 28 years and the things that I've done in 28 years, I'm like, oh my gosh. That's fantastic.
Alina, I'm not a risk taker, as you can see.
I know. But you took an investment in yourself, and because you did that, you have changed so many lives and helped to shape them. So I appreciate that. Ladies, before we go, and I'm not rushing you with this answer, because I do have a couple of announcements, so I'll let you think about it. Oftentimes we hear negative connotations about women in leadership, or somebody says, I don't want to work for a woman boss, or, we just have men who don't want to work for women or women who don't want to work for women. So I'd like you to just talk about managing people, because that is one of the things that I don't like to do. I don't personally like to manage people. I think it's very challenging. And that's probably why I've been independent and done a lot of things. Individual contributor. I love that. I love to manage projects, but not people. So however you choose to frame your answer, when it comes to managing as a woman, what are your comments, your advice, your dislikes, whatever you want to say, however you choose to frame the question. And I'm going to start with Laine, and then I'm going to go around to Kim. I'm going to start with Dr. Young Walker, then Dr. Hatchett, then Dr. Candy, then Dr. Squires. And I'm going to make an announcement. I want to say thank you all so much for joining us on Facebook. Thank you for joining us on YouTube. We are so excited to have you here. If you like what you see, please share it. Please like it. Please tell people about it. It's so exciting to be able to come together and host these Wonder Women. If you would like to support the show, you can certainly use the Cash App tag right here. You can just use your phone, I'm told, and just go click, and then you can do that. We appreciate that. And we will be back next week with a show entitled Submissive Women. So we have Wonder Women here, and next week I'm going to talk with the man about being a submissive woman. How do you all think that's going to go?
You didn't invite us next week, huh? Okay.
No, I did not, but I want you to watch. Okay. That being said, Dr. Young Walker, managing people as a woman.
I think one of the most important things is to really be honest and genuine, to be who you are and not try to emulate something else because you think it's what people want. And then I always try to bring in other people to be a part of the conversation. So I'm not dictating or mandating. Let's come together as a team. My first chair meeting was let's talk about our mission, our vision, and our values. And what are we doing as a department that's supporting that? What are we doing that's not? So not me telling them, but them brainstorming and helping to shape our next direction. So honesty and genuineness and really engaging others.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much. And you said focus on our what is our mission, our vision, and our values. I think that is fantastic for people as individuals. I don't think we're taught that. I think it usually happens in the workplace or people will say something about it, but we don't live that. Okay. So when you think about what is your mission in life, what is your vision and what are your values? And once you start to think about those things, then you can start to hone in on your skills, your education, and become successful in whatever it is because you're tenacious like these women doctors are tonight. So thank you so much for that answer, Dr. Walker, Young Walker. Dr. Kim Johnson-Hatchett, please go ahead. Women in leadership.
I think utilize the talents that you have. And, you know, I think one of you guys said you might not be the smartest person. And that's how I feel sometimes when I'm around all these other physicians who have, you know, subspecialized in these things that I'm a neurologist, but I'm not a cardiologist. I'm not a pulmonologist. So I utilize their strengths to make the department better, but I also focus in on them as an individual. And I'm not afraid to ask the hard questions. I'm not afraid to read them because when I'm listening to someone, I'm not just listening to what they're saying. I'm listening to what their body is saying. And so I'm not afraid to ask, where did you just go there? I can sense that you're not really in this conversation, and ask them that question personally about what's going on in their mind so that we can refocus the conversation back to the business at hand. So, utilizing other people's talents and then not being afraid to ask questions and to really try to understand where people are at.
Very good. Thank you. That's being very intuitive. I think that's a key distinction between how many men lead and women. I don't know that a man will say, hey, where'd you go? What are you thinking? You know, what do we need to address so that we can be here present together, and then let somebody feel comfortable enough to be honest and say, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Dr. Candace.
Yeah, you know, my position is a little bit different, being in that I employ young women. You know, some are 19, some range up to, you know, older than I am. So there's a wide net that is there. And so I'm often in a position of a mentorship, big sister, cousin kind of a role. And because I'm playful, sometimes it's hard, but they know me to be a certain kind of way, but sometimes it's difficult because it's my business. You know, I don't work for someone else. And so I do have that vision, that mission, and I don't accept less than what that vision and that mission is. And so that's where the leadership comes in. And sometimes you do have to make those hard decisions to let someone go. if they're not in line with the vision, because you're affecting me, you're affecting my name in these streets. So you have to make sure that when you are trying to motivate somebody, encourage someone, but at the same time, there has to be rules in place in this day and age, as you mentioned, with phones and technology, and everybody apparently wants to work only when they want to. I try to really temper my tongue so that I don't offend. So a lot of times I may have to take a break and not address a certain situation so that I don't break them down, but that I do get the point across that this is unacceptable and I don't like it, and hope that they will want to do better. And that's usually where I end up catching someone, pull them to the side and say, what's going on? And oftentimes there's something going on at the house, and then I've prayed with them, I've given them money, but it's a relationship. And that's really the point in leadership to me, is that you have to invest in people. I don't really believe that people leave jobs. I believe people leave people. And as long as you can effectively touch a person with your communication and let them know that you care about them genuinely and you're there to support them, then they will support you.
Very good. Reciprocity. I'm sorry, what'd you say? Usually. Yes. Very good. Thank you so much. Okay, Dr. Jody.
Okay. So some years ago, many years ago, I read The Four Agreements, the book, The Four Agreements. And pretty much everything I do, I refer to those four agreements. So when I'm at work, it's be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And so there have been times when I have to have a difficult conversation. I will read that and say, stick to the script. And when I say stick to the script, I mean, stick to these four things. Tell the truth, clean, clear, don't use a bunch of words, communicate clearly, and then be effective and say what you need to say. Sometimes we feel like we got to just talk and be flowery, and sometimes we do have to kind of smooth things over, spoonful of sugar. But other times people appreciate, just tell it like it is in relationship to whatever this situation is. And so I just try to do that. And even when I have bad news or things are a little bit, these difficult conversations that we've had, it makes it better. It makes it better for me. I can stick to the script. We can get the outcome that we need. And even if we're not ending on good terms, or maybe we still have a disagreement, there's mutual respect. Like, I'm not getting overly emotional about this. We're going to stay, focused right here. And so that has worked for me because there's so many things that happen that can knock you off your square completely, right? And once you're off your square, your reactions are unpredictable and you're kind of no good. So I do it for my benefit. I want to make sure I'm not off my square and operating from a space that's not helpful for me, especially on my job. So that's kind of my blueprint, if you will.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And The Four Agreements is an excellent book. It's easy, even if you're not a reader. I mean, you can pick it up and you can read it in an hour. And then you can start to apply it in your life. So it's fantastic. Thank you for mentioning that. All right. So before we go, a word of encouragement. What would your parting words for someone who may be having a hard time with their child, who may be having a hard time with their job, with people in their lives, with family members, or just living life every single day? What would you like them to know? And Laine, I'm going to go with you first. Oh, wait a minute. You're muted.
I would say don't give up, because there's a lot of times that I thought that I wasn't going to make it, but I continued, and you can. So tenacity. You used that word earlier.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Kim, Dr. Kim.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
I think I'm just like freaked out. So I would say the same. Don't give up. Never give up. If it's for you, it's going to happen.
Thank you. Dr. Jody?
Boy, so many words. Just hit that reset button as many times as you need to. and commit to it. Don't
Yes.
be afraid. If you have to do a hard reset, if you have to surround yourself with different people in a different place and a different time and space, do it, because life is very, very short. And whatever you need to do to get some joy and productivity out of it, you need to do it. So hit the reset button as much as you need to.
Fantastic. Thank you. And finally, Dr. Candy.
I probably would say stay in the fight. It gets better. We can overcome any problems. Every day is a new day. Grace and mercy for everyone. You get it, you give it, you receive it, and just do your personal best.
Thank you so much. Okay, so before I do my final thought, I would like to ask each of you to stay just for a moment. I'm going to do my final thought, and then I'm going to come back into the studio, if that's okay. And so I want to thank you so much for being here this evening. Thank you for taking the time. You could have been doing anything else like sleeping and preparing for your busy day tomorrow, but you chose to be here tonight. So thank you for sharing from your hearts, from your experience, from your education, and from who you are as women. I'm so proud of you, to know you, and I just can't wait to see what the future holds for each and every one of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm ready for my final thoughts. I'm a little overcome because relationships matter, and so do you. Every day can be tough. Life is tough. Every moment to moment, you don't know what kind of phone call you're going to get, or what's going to happen, or what situation you find yourself in, or what problem you need to solve. But as these ladies talked about, relationships are everything. So first, your relationship with yourself. I put my relationship with the Lord first, but I'm going to say for me, it's my relationship with the Lord, and then my relationship with myself, and relationships with people. So many times we're disconnected because we are using electronics, or we're using our mechanisms of survival, and we'll lie, and we'll be angry, and we'll say nothing's wrong, but it's clear we're lying in our body language and our tone of voice. But as you heard, it's okay to have a do-over. Ask for a do-over. The people who are in your life, I pray that you can have people like these ladies who I've known, some of them for well over 30 years, and to be able to say, hey, can you come and share some wisdom? Hey, can you come and share a little inspiration? And them to do it. I hope you found love. I hope you found light. I hope you found some answers today. And remember, forgiveness is so important. We have to learn to forgive ourselves first and foremost, and then possibly and hopefully forgive others. If you didn't do what you said you were going to do, if you haven't achieved what you wanted to achieve, and if you're not where you want to be, it's okay. You can have a do-over and start today. That's what I have to say. Thank you so much for watching The Authentic Joe Show, and we look forward to seeing you again. I'm Jolena Johnson, and see you next week.